Hello. Um, Now I know I already talked about the ending of Chainsaw Man, and I've already kind of glazed it, but this story means a lot to me, and I just have a lot to say about it. Um, I just feel like Chainsaw Man has just come. Oh my God, my dog just farted. I've never heard her fart before. You just fart. I just feel like Chainsaw Man has, um, kind of come at me as sort of a perfect time in my life. Um, just because it's hitting certain emotions that I've just been needing to feel. Um and it's a story that I just have so much to say about, and it's the first thing I've seen in a while, because anime and manga used to be such a big part of like my teenage years, because I used to just consume a lot of it. But over the years, it's just been less and less, and ever since I turned 18, I just kind of, it's been like maybe one or two shows a year for me, and that's about it. Um, you know, and it's just, I've grown up a bit, so my expectations are just higher, and it just, a lot of that stuff doesn't really stimulate me the same way like it used to, you know. Um, and I think I've started to appreciate more subtle storytelling too. And anime is very much it's very expressive and in your face, which is what I liked about it when I was younger. But now I'm just, I don't know, I don't know. Um, but Chainsaw Man is very much like influenced by like Western movies and um, that kind of storytelling. So it got me back into um, enjoying like popular pop cultural media, you know. Which is, it's just been a while since I've enjoyed something like that. But anyways, I think the biggest hurdle when it comes to Chainsaw Man is the sexual stuff. I think this is the biggest turnoff that people have with the series, you know. And a lot of people just don't really like fan service. They don't really like overly sexualized female characters. And I understand this. I'm similar. I can sometimes look. I can sometimes look over fan service. Like I can like kind of tune it out. Um, but if a whole show is just full of it, but more importantly, if a show has a perverted protagonist, I'm gonna have a very hard time getting into it. I mean, that was my problem with Mashoko Tensei and Seven Deadly Sins, is that I thought the protagonists were just very problematic, and it was very hard to follow them. And I think a lot of people's impressions with Chainsaw Man before they get into it is that it's one of those kind of stories, and that the protagonist is kind of a perverted weirdo. Um, and I understand that because it's certainly the very first impression that the show kind of gives off in like its first few episodes. Um, so I get it, but it's all, I can just assure you that it's different. Um, yes, sexual things happen in Chainsaw Man. Um, but Chainsaw Man is also exploring themes of intimacy and power dynamics and relationships and desire. And for that reason, the moments that you could consider fan service, I never really consider those moments to be fan service in Chainsaw Man, because they're always in service of saying something, of communicating with the themes of the story. It doesn't feel out of place. It's not like One Piece where, Sanji has to um put every woman he meets on this weird pedestal, or Brooke, who always, I don't know, ask the female characters to show their panties. It's not like that. Like it doesn't feel so out of place like that. The sexual moments in Chainsaw Man feel very well integrated into what's going on in the story. Um, but more importantly, it doesn't feel servicey, because often these situations are either mundane or they are straight up traumatic. I mean, the protagonist, he touches boobs for this first time and it feels empty. The first time he has a kiss, um, the girl is drunk and she pukes in his mouth. Um, you know, so it's very different. And like watching those scenes, it's not hot. It's like uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable scenes to watch. Um, and that's the whole point. Um, so Chainsaw Man is just very different in its exploration of sexuality. And I'm actually happy to see a story that isn't afraid to explore those things. It isn't afraid to be physically intimate. It isn't afraid to show that kind of stuff. Because on the other hand, there are some stories out there that I just think are so prudent to the point where it just doesn't feel honest to how life is. But yeah, Denji is a horny teen. But he's also a really fucked up teen. I mean, he's growing up in poverty, trying to pay off his father's debt to the Yakuza. He's never had a mother. He's never had family. He's only had a dog, a pet dog. And he was really poor, and he risked his life killing devils. He has no human connection. He doesn't even go to school. He's not educated. He doesn't know how to read. He doesn't know how to swim. He doesn't know basic math. And it's devastating. And you don't really think about a lot of these things until the series progresses and you realize just how stunted Denji as a character actually is. Like, you don't realize these things until you see him literally not being able to read, and there's something kind of sad about that. There's something kind of sad about the childhood that has been robbed from him. And that's what makes the story so devastating when you have, these characters stepping in to take advantage of that. And I think one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in Chainsaw Man was this scene where Denji is about to go skinny dipping with this girl, and like in any other anime, it would feel like perverted. It would feel kind of gross, and it would feel out of place, and like it's trying to get you, like, as a viewer, it's trying to get you hard, or it's trying to be fan service, And there's definitely sexual tension in the scene because Denji's never seen anybody naked before. There's definitely sexual tension, but the thing is that all of that tension gets released. And that's because, he goes skinny dipping, and it's actually this incredibly innocent moment where nothing sexual happens. Him and this girl just end up playing in the water like kids who have had their childhoods ripped away from them, because both of them didn't really have a childhood, because this other character, I feel like I've said too much to where I've already spoiled, so maybe it doesn't matter, but this other character hasn't really experienced a childhood just like him. So in this moment, they're just two kids playing in the pool. And she even teaches him how to swim. And it's beautiful, you know? Um, and it's also beautiful because they're both being so vulnerable with each other because he doesn't know how to swim. And because she has a power that gets weakened if she's in the water. If she's in the water, she can't use her powers. So they're both being super vulnerable with each other. And I've just never seen a story pull that off. A story that can pull off something that feels so sexual and intimate, but also so innocent at the same time. You know? This is what's beautiful about Chainsaw Man. And it's very self aware throughout, you know? And that's because what the protagonist wants isn't sex. That's just what he thinks he wants because he's a uneducated, stunted teenager. And yes, teenagers want to have sex. It's that's human nature, you know. But what's beautiful is about Chainsaw Man is that it's revealed throughout the story that what Denji really wants is he just wants a fucking family. Um, and he gets that. He gets a newfound family. Aki becomes his older brother. Power becomes his bratty little sister. Kishibe becomes his father figure, the guy who trains him. And then Makima is like his mom. Um, Even though it's a little weird because he wants because he's sexually attracted to Makima, but he's confusing. Again, he's confusing his sexual drive with something that is different from that. He's confusing them because he's new to all of this, and um, he's never had a mom. You know, um, but this is what makes it so sad because Makima is literally grooming him and giving him this life because she's the one who sets him up with Kishibe. She's the one who makes Power and Aki his roommates. She's the one who's designing his life, and she gives him what he's always actually wanted, a family. And in the movie, during the scene where Denji is doing a marathon of movies at the movie theater, the one scene that makes Denji cry is a scene from a movie, and it's a real movie called The Ballad of a Soldier, which is this post-Soviet Union movie about this man coming home, or going on this journey back home to see his mom, and he hugs his mom at the end. And that's the scene that makes Denji cry, because he's never had that. And that's what's so devastating is Makima then rips this life away from him. She gives him this life and she rips it away. She kills. And again, I'm sorry for the spoilers, but she kills Power and she kills Aki. But worse, she makes Denji kill them. And because when Denji was a kid and he killed his father, in self-defense, because his father was drunk and he was, paying off the debt to the Yakuza. So his father was fucked up. After doing that, he buried those memories because he believed that he didn't deserve a normal life. But this sealed the deal. After killing Aki and Power, Denji now fully believes that he does not deserve a normal life with people that love him. And that's why part 2 is so frustrating to read and so depressing, because Denji just falls into this constant cycle of self-sabotaging and being addicted to this Chainsaw Man persona because people adore it. People adore Chainsaw Man, and he becomes such a slave to his sex drive as well. He's pathetic in part 2. He's pathetic because he doesn't take any accountability over his own life, and he's kind of just a complete slave to his sex drive, which is abused by, which is still abused by the women around him. And it's sad because, like, yeah, it's sad. It's a sad thing to watch. Um, and that's what makes the ending so beautiful to me, is because Pochita gives Denji a hug, and hugs are just the purest. Hugs are used a lot in Chainsaw Man, and they're always used in these pure moments. You know, like when Denji hugs Rize, when Denji hugs Nayata, when Denji hugs Power, when Denji hugs um, Pochita at the very end of the manga, and then he hugs Asa in the New World too, and it's just a pure intimate reaction because hugs are given. They aren't transactions. And Denji, throughout the entire series, or at least throughout a lot of it, he believes that intimate situations are transactional. You know, I save your cat, I get to touch your boobs. I kill the Eternity Devil, I get to kiss you. I kill the Gun Devil, we get to have sex. And he believes that um, throughout the show and throughout the manga. But hugs, every time a hug happens in that series, it's given. Um, it's not transactional, and that's what makes is such a beautiful gesture of love. And that's why in the new universe, it's really important because, and I know a lot of people are saying it's not Denji, um, but it's pretty explicitly shown that it's still Denji, and that even if he doesn't remember what he did in the previous universe, um, before Pochita eats himself, it's still him. That's still Denji, you know. It's implied that the characters, their actions have still formed who they are in this new world. You know, we see that because Power likes the smell of dogs now, and I don't think she would have liked the smell of dogs necessarily in the old world. Um, and that's obviously because of her time spent with Denji, who's basically a dog, because he has Pochita inside of him, who's a dog. But anyways, um, that's what's so important, and that's what's so important about this new universe. Because Denji drops the chainsaw, he hugs Asa, and saves her from a life of guilt. And then more importantly, he lets her go. And he doesn't chase after her. That's because he finally learned to selflessly give himself. Or that's kind of the wrong way to say it, but like to selflessly, altruistically help somebody. And that's because that's what Pochita gave to him at the very end. That's the same gift because Pochita sacrificed himself for Denji. Pochita gave Denji an example of what love actually is. And Denji learned from that, and that's what he always needed, because he didn't have that with Makima. Because Makima couldn't have equal relationships. She couldn't have altruistic relationships because she's the control devil. And I just think that is the most powerful, beautiful message to leave your story off of. And it's so sad that nobody's picking up on any of that. And nobody is seeing that. It's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing. You know, it's such a beautiful story. And it's just a shame. It's just a fucking shame that nobody's going to see that. And everybody's just going to believe that it's just poorly written and not well thought out when it's so well thought out. It's so well thought out.